dating is a privilege. In 2025, dating is a privilege. Every single one of your ancestors, 100 years ago, 30 years ago, they didn't get to choose who they got to marry. And in fact, even the history of this country, there were enslavers who would rip families apart, take people's kids and force them to marry someone else because they wanted, let's call it, their children to have more, the children of the enslaved, to work the farms or whatever. There was a time when marriage was a really traumatic event. In fact, there are laws in certain countries that existed 100, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, especially one in Scotland, where because there was a town in Scotland where marriage could happen quick and it was very accessible, people would elope. And the cultural and societal norms of many countries, including the one that I'm from, if you managed to elope within 24 hours with someone that you were in love, your family was forced to accept that. Those were the laws. So we take for granted that we get to date. Because there was a time when a lot of us, our grandparents, our grandmothers, marriage was a tool of suppression, of survival, and they didn't get to choose who to spend their life with.
Yeah.
And that's
they weren't worried about soulmates.
They were not worried about soulmates, but also the thing that I find really shocking is when people say like, oh, back then, women were happier. Well, I don't know that many sociologists who were asking women in the 1940s how happy they were. So let's start there. But also, women couldn't have bank accounts until the 70s or open businesses until the 80s in this country, right? So, now that women are, I think just saying that really quick, though, is that dating is a privilege. And just thinking about my own heritage, how that drove it, the name on the book is Maria Avgitidis, and yes, that is my name, but that's also my grandmother's name. And she's a survivor of a genocide. And she didn't get to really choose who she got to marry, right? And neither did her mother, and neither did her grandmother. You kind of go down the line, right? And it's like, wow, dating is a privilege, and I want to honor my legacy and the heritage that I come from, a very proud, Greek person. But we also have to correct some of the wrongs that existed back then by giving people agency over who they get to love.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Love that. If you leave a first date feeling unsure, not great, but not bad, do you trust that feeling or force yourself to try a second date in the hopes to be proven wrong?
There's only 2 questions you should ask after a first date. Did I enjoy myself? Am I still curious about them? And for some people, you could still feel that way, but are you still curious about them? Then you should go on a second date. That's it. It's not complicating.
Easy. Feeling sad over the idea of man/potential of relationship ending. How to get over wrong guy still fantasizing over. And they put in parentheses,
I need you to
love
finish.
you.
Whoever wrote this, don't answer because I want you to be anonymous, but I hope they finish reading the book because I think that's like one of my promises is like, if you feel this way, read the book again. Because when you start to go through the chapters of compatibility.
I said it's so empowering.
Yeah, when you go through the chapters of compatibility, of communication, of avoidance and all these things, you should be able to snap yourself out of that fantasy. Because it's always the short situationships that have the most hold over us because you're fantasizing and you have to mourn that fantasy. You didn't get to celebrate Halloween with them. You didn't get to do New Year's. You didn't get to go to Capri on Labor Day. I'm fantasizing here, aren't I?
Yeah.
But so that's what you're mourning is that fantasy.
Yeah, and because, there's like, when you haven't actually dated the person and broken up, in that case, you're like, okay, well, we broke up because these things weren't working out. But in a situationship, you're like, oh, but I think he liked me and...
Yeah. Oh, it was a bad time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right person, wrong time?
Yeah.
No. Try again. How can you tell the difference between superficial chemistry and a lasting connection?
Bids, I mentioned that in the book towards the end. That's from the Gottman Institute. So, one of the ways to witness if a relationship is going in the healthy direction is to see how they respond to bids, the bid to connect. So I'll give you an example. For instance, if you're driving with someone and you see a beautiful tree and you say, oh, wow, what a beautiful tree, how your partner responds to you saying that. Because you saying what a beautiful tree is actually, even though you're looking at the tree, you're actually asking to connect with your partner, right? Because you're you're saying, like, look at this experience that I'm having, look at this valuable tree. And then if this person that you're with is driving says, oh, wow, that is beautiful, that's a positive reaction to the bid. But if they don't respond, or if they're like, ugh, you're always looking at trees, that is not healthy. And so to me, superficial chemistry is like kind of thinking about when you're trying to connect, how are they responding to that form of connection?
Yeah. Okay, 3 more questions. What are your thoughts on the sorry, I actually want to save that for the end.
Okay.
How do you recommend meeting someone if you're not on the apps? I remember once you told me that you're like, if I was a single woman, I would just hang out at Whole Foods because you're like, they can afford, Whole Foods.
This is how you know how far back I know her. I lived in Chelsea at the time. And I was like, I know how much rent is, all right? If you can afford the Whole Foods in Chelsea and not the Trader Joe's, no, I would hang, yeah, hell yeah, why not? No, but if I'm being honest, there's, I think Eventbrite has really picked up on the events that they have listed that are community-based. I would also say, I'm not saying this because I'm here, but your local Y, even the 92nd Street Y, or your local JCC, or your local whatever community venue you have, it is a wealth of people who want to be there and connect with other people. That's why you're all here, right? Like, I know you're here to see me, which is nice. But at the same time, like, look at what the spirit of the 92nd Street Y is, right? It's to give back to the community and to let people connect with each other. And there's, like, if you look at the website of 92nd Street Y, there's just so many things to do. So yeah, if I were a single woman and I lived in Manhattan, you better believe I'd be here once a week taking classes, meeting new people, but also trying to tell the people that I'm meeting, I'm looking for someone.
Yeah.
And next time you're out with your friends, can you invite me? I'm not asking you to set me up. I'm asking you to think of me when you go out next time socially. Let me do the rest.
And that's actually, that distinction is, I think, really important. Because
Yeah.
I be telling everybody these days, I'm available for a setup.
Yeah.
But actually, it's the
reverse.
invite me
out. Invite me out. I just had
be out with single.
I had a book reading on Saturday. They're not here, I think. And there were 2 people that I want to set up, and I didn't tell them that.
Oh.
And but I was like, hey, we're having my daughter's birthday party. Do you want to come over to my house? Because I thought, maybe they'll talk to each other in the backyard, and they did. And now I'm trying to. Do you like her? She likes him, so we're gonna.
Okay, last question. Why haven't you set Chrissy up? Oh wait, no, sorry. Just kidding.
Have I?
Just kidding.
Have I?
No, you never have. But honestly, and I was actually going to talk about this with my therapist, because actually Maria introduced me to my therapist, which I am so grateful for.
It's a good match.
It is actually the best match of my life. But back in the day, because obviously we've been friends for so long now, like, you obviously always tell people, like, oh, you can enter my free database and whatnot. And I also feel like this speaks to, like, I'm at such a different place in my life right now. But the thought of entering your database and being set up with men who were looking to get married, that was really scary to me.
Back then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Less so now, but I
Yeah.
still have never entered your database. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but it's just, listen, I have my reasons.
I can't ever set you up if you're not in there for legal reasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a different kind of business.
Okay, I'll put myself in there. I actually always thought, I was like, listen, I think if Maria had someone that she really thought I was a match for, she would tell me.
Yeah, I would.
But now I know, I gotta put myself in there. Okay, actual last question.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the rise of open relationships? Can they be done in a healthy way?
I don't know. I will be the first to tell you that I don't know enough. I have been looking at the trends of this. I have been speaking to some of my colleagues who work in that arena of dating, because the dating umbrella is huge, right?
Yeah, of
it's
course.
it's not just the apps and the matchmakers. There's all the different types of relationships that could happen. So I don't think, there's no judgment towards people who want to participate in E&M or ethnical non-monogamy, but I'm not the expert in that. And also, I don't think I'm interested in being the expert in that, because
Totally. I get that.
I think you have to kind of pick your lane as a matchmaker, and my lane is monogamy. I think it's still a pretty popular thing to do.
For now.
So, I'm gonna, but there are plenty of people out there that are experts in this,
Yeah.
and I like to hear from them. So I'm listening.
Yeah.